Hi, friends. Welcome back. This is another edition of the Water is Love live talks on Instagram. And today I'm here with Nnimmo Bassey, joining us from Nigeria. Nnimmo is a leading environmental and human rights campaigner. He is an architect, an essayist, a poet, a former director of Friends of the Earth and Environmental Rights Action, winner of the Right Livelihood Award and many other prestigious prizes. And yeah, really an elder of the global ecological movement. And it's a great honor to have you with us here today. We actually met through the late Lakota elder Ladonna Berfbul Allard a few years back. So I feel her with us as well as we speak here. Thanks so much, Nnimmo, for coming on.
Thank you very much. It's a big pleasure and privilege, considering everything that we face in the world today and the tenacity with which you are pursuing the right to safe water and the right to life.
Yeah, and maybe we can also start on this note, as all these conversations are holding water front and center. I mean, you've been involved with struggles for environmental justice, but also basically for defending Earth's sacredness and the sacredness of all her elements. What is your connection with water? What does water mean to you? Or is there a particular experience perhaps that you want to share?
Oh, wow. That's a huge question. Let me just preface it by saying that water is life. I mean, we are water. Much of our body is just water. And, interestingly, even though water is life, many nations in the world today don't agree that citizens or humans have a right to water, which is why water has been privatized, and which is why there's a lot of water grabbing around the world, which is why people are just finding ways, corporations finding ways of commodifying water and making it less accessible to people. Water is, I don't know, I have all my life, one of the most astonishing things that I've had to face is water grabbing from communities through pollution. Mm. Because as soon as a water body is polluted, that water body doesn't belong to the community anymore. They can't drink the water, they can't fish in it, they can't have recreation in it, they can't even carry out spiritual exercises in the water. The polluting corporations and polluting entities simply just grab whole water bodies and disconnect communities from the gift of nature. So this has been the unfortunate experience that some of us have had to face continually on a daily basis. Mm. You look at a water body, a place that you would like to go in for recreation, for reflection, or to have a cool drink, and you just find that you can't even touch it. Mm-hmm. You can't touch it. You can't step into the water. This is really, I would like to have beautiful memories, beautiful experiences, beautiful dreams on water. But, when I see water that is clean, I just tell myself, you have to fight to keep it clean. When I see water that is contaminated, I tell myself, you have to fight to decontaminate this water body, to reclaim it for the people and for other beings that we share the planet. Because water is for everyone, not just humans, for all beings, visible and invisible.
Yeah, and knowing a little bit about your story, what you're talking about is absolutely not theoretical at all, but you have been for decades involved in the struggle against fossil fuel abuse and pollution in the Niger Delta region. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that struggle. It's been such an important fight for climate justice and environmental justice, but unfortunately in the global north where I'm speaking from, it's relatively unknown. Yeah, what has been the struggle about? What have also been the victories, learnings?
Yes, I guess for many people, the experiences that we have with water bodies sound like very strange, and they can they find very difficult to even understand or relate with. Now, oil extraction at industrial scale commenced in Nigeria 58 years ago, 68 years ago. It's been an unmitigated disaster. Even the oil wells that have been abandoned are still polluting. They've not been decommissioned. They've not been dismantled. And as we speak, oil wells are blowing up. There's one that blew up in shallow waters on the continental shelf in May 2020. As we speak, it's still burning and spilling nonstop.
Wow.
That is burning and spilling for 5 years.
Wow.
It's called the Ororo 1 oil well, burning and spilling for 5 years. And, you know, no sense of accountability, no sense of responsibility by those who created this problem, and no attempt whatsoever to stop the disaster. Apart from this, we've had, you go to some communities I go to frequently, I just go there to remind myself that, look, the struggle is still quite a distance to go. When I go to look at the level of contamination of the water bodies, and to just remind myself that the job is not done. So it's a long struggle. In 2011, yes, there was a report issued on the assessment of the Ogoni environment. Ogoni is a community of people in the Niger Delta. It's where Ken Saro-Wiwa came from, and he was executed in 1995 for complaining about the level of ecological disaster in his region. Now, the report the assessment was issued by United Nations Environment Program, and the report showed in some places that water is contaminated with a carcinogen, benzene, up to 900 times above World Health Standards. Now, just in 2023, there's another report called Environmental Genocide from one other state in the Niger Delta, the Bayelsa state. And that report showed that there's a hydrocarbon pollution of water bodies to a level 1 million times above World Health Standards, as well as high levels of cadmium and lead and other heavy metals in the water that people have to depend on. And what this has meant to us is that even if you don't drink the water, if you eat the fish from the water, you are equally contaminated. And so no matter what, if you use the water for agriculture, your food is contaminated. And so water is, when we say water is life, there's no better way to explain it than just to say water is life. The experience of the work of oil companies and mining companies in communities that are dispossessed and underserved is just simply put criminal.
Yeah. Wow. What a harrowing facts you're sharing. But also the campaign that you've been involved in and the leader of, like managed not to like entirely send big oil out, but managed to end impunity in some ways and managed to put some boundaries. Maybe you could also tell us about the successes and the victories.
Yes, it's been a long, long struggle, both from when I was in Friends of the Earth, Nigeria, and now in head of Mother Earth Foundation. So a lot of our work, we call fossil politics, relates to water bodies and extractivist activities in water bodies. One of the things that we've achieved in recent years has been triggering the formation of Fishnet Alliance. which is an alliance of fisher folks across many countries in Africa. And they stand firmly against extractivist activities in water bodies. So they don't want extraction in the rivers, in the streams, in the swamps, in the continental shelf, because those simply destroy local economies and dispossess and impoverish the people. So seeing a movement that is going from Senegal to Togo to Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, Congo, Angola, South Africa, Mozambique, Uganda, South Sudan, and still spreading, I believe is a very big, it's a good achievement. And the achievement is the fact that the fisher folks are the ones driving the movement. They're the ones defending their rivers, they're the ones defending their water, not any civil society group like my organization. No, we just work with them, and this is very satisfying to accompany them in the journey of protecting the water bodies that provide them life and everything pertaining to life. We've also worked with communities to resist pollution of water bodies through litigation. And some of these litigations have been in Nigeria, some outside of Nigeria. Of course, the litigation that goes on outside Nigeria is more likely going to achieve some results than the ones in Nigeria, because the oil companies, the polluters, have no respect for the local judicial system, which is very sad and insulting, and I would say unacceptable. So we're having teams of community ecological defenders who protect their lands and their water defenders who work continuously to ensure that nothing is driven, nothing is hidden. And they protect their waters, they protect their water bodies, because they know that without that, they cannot live in dignity. Neither can they have the best life possible. And then we also partner with groups who are working for the rights of nature, the right of water bodies to be recognized as persons, because these water bodies have life, and they are life, of course. When the personhood of a river is recognized, then anybody who carries out polluting activities in that water is liable for a criminal offense. And so we are very much in that campaign to respect the rights of nature and to respect the rights of rivers to personhood, and the right of rivers to be free from pollution, the right of rivers to be able to maintain their cycles and supply what we need, both for humans and for other aquatic species and others who share the water bodies. So yeah, there are so many related campaigns. These are just some of them. We also, as I said, we work with fisher folks. And for fisher folks to really have a good economy, they have to have decent water bodies, unpolluted or contaminated. We do believe that everyone must be held accountable to whatever they do with water bodies that is negative, and that kind of either destroys the water systems or contaminates them.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, and also for this really untiring, decades-long work. While our film Water is Love really focuses on ecological regeneration, I think what you're saying is also just a reminder that we will not have, clean, safe drinking water as long as our economy relies on fossil fuels, because what you're talking about is, the flip side of the kind of fossil fuel economy that we have, and that we equally need to make sure to protect ecosystems as they exist and detoxify the ones that have been polluted. So from talking about activist experience, maybe we can go a little bit to kind of your vision and also maybe political beliefs. One of the things that I find very inspiring and outstanding in your work is how you connect environmental issues with maybe more political issues of collective liberation. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about your ideas on and vision of environmental democracy, what that means, and also what might be some lived examples of it.
Okay, thank you so much. This is an issue, of course, that put a lot of thoughts into. We believe that environmental democracy is vital to having people live in harmony with nature. It's like a way of demanding and working for the defense of the rights of nature, to maintain her cycles, to maintain a life without disruption, and to provide the services that we all need. So we think of it as resource democracy with a hyphen between the re and the source. And where we put the resource, that means we want to connect back to the source.
I love that.
Every river has a source. And, we may not fully understand how the mechanisms, but they do have sources that we have to protect. And when we don't reconnect to the source, we don't know where the gifts of nature are coming from. Tendencies for us to take them for granted and to destroy them. And so we believe that every person and every community has a right to resource democracy, which means that if I have a river in my community, I have the full authority to say what activity should be carried out in that river. And so if I'm against extractivism, you cannot extract anything from that water bodies. If I want to, you cannot privatize the water, to bottle it, to sell it, or to convert it to some drinks or whatever, without considering the right of the communities. And then you cannot destroy forests that protect the headwaters, that protect the water systems that we depend on. So it's a very holistic definition about the right of people, the sovereignty of the people to be honored and respected with regard to how they relate with nature. And that what we call, this definition or this understanding also includes the fact that what we call natural resources, that notion of natural resource kind of opens us to commercialization of nature. That we think as natural resource should be seen as the gifts of nature. And if you have a gift from nature, it is actually a form of misbehavior to misuse that gift, to destroy that gift, to pollute that gift. It shows that you don't appreciate the giver and you don't appreciate the gift itself. And so resource democracy centers people at the center, but it also recognizes that humans are just one subsection of beings on understanding that humans are just 0.01% of the biomass of living things on Earth. We're just a tiny fraction. And so we should respect the other beings that we share the planet. And this goes round to respecting our water bodies, respecting the soil. A soil without water is dead. And the soil has much more beings living in them than above the soil. And so water is so critical for life, both on the surface of the planet and in the soils and in water itself.
That's so beautiful. And also when you speak, like there is a certain spiritual reverence shining through, like you referred to like earth as her, you kind of suggest that beings of nature are sovereigns on their own right. Like, could you speak more to the spirituality that informs your environmentalism and why it's actually important?
Now, environmentalism that does not consider the embeddedness of humans in nature and the rights of other beings to live and to be whom they are. I think that to me is very empty, kind of mechanical environmentalism. And so we begin by recognizing the fact that we share the planet with other beings. And that even the things we consider as non-living may actually be living. It's just that we have limited understanding of nature. In the African cosmology, our people have very deep connections to various dimensions of nature, to trees, to some aquatic species, to animals. And, communities have there were rules of engagement with nature. considering nature as our mother. When somebody says, I'm a son or daughter of the soil, it's much more than just a manner of speaking. It shows the fact that you came from your mother and eventually have to go back to your mother. And so if you know that the earth is your home, you should know that the way you prepare your home is the way the home will receive you. And, destructive activities actually shows a loss of mind. People who pollute, people who damage the environment, who destroy other species, are people who have lost their memory of being a being. They've lost their sense of life as a web of interconnections, as a web of life in which we are all interdependent, a life that culture includes. And our spirituality is empty if we don't recognize the rise of and the fact that they all have, they do speak. Nature speaks to us, but we lost the sense of hearing as well as the sense of memory. And so this is why our ancestors, those who came before us, and some who are still alive, and we have ancestors who are also living, some that have passed, they demarcated certain areas that you cannot carry out certain activities in. Those were the sacred zones. Today, we have very little or no sacred zones. Everywhere is sacrificed. Everywhere is up for destruction. And this is why massive contamination. This is why we can look at the ocean. Because, the ocean is so limitless. But we all do know that if things continue the way they're going, we're going to have more plastics in the ocean than we could ever imagine. So it shows a sense of lack of willingness, willful blindness to the fact that everything we do destroys our capacity and ability to enjoy the gifts of nature and to enjoy life in a way that is spiritually sound. And so the way we relate to nature, Mother Earth, the way we relate to other beings, is a mark of our spiritual health. Now, our spirituality is anchored on our relationship with beings and things visible and invisible, with the sense that we are never alone at any point in time, and with the fact that the river as a source of life is sacrosanct, and we have to respect our water bodies. Now, in my culture, living the good life is called etiuwem. In other parts of Africa, we have Ubuntu. People are most conscious of that, how Ubuntu dependence of our humanity. I'm human because we're human, which goes to speak about what is the measure of well-being. Is well-being measured by how much capital you've accumulated? Is it measured by how much power you have? Is it measured by what kind of tyrant you are to other beings or other humans? Is it measured by your power to destroy without being held to account? And the answer is no. Well-being is living in harmony with humans and other beings, both those that you know and those you don't know. So this spirituality brings a lot of humility. That one, we don't know it all. Number two, that nature cares for us. And also that other beings care for us. One being that is diminished, one species that is lost, diminishes who we are as humans. And we have a right to serve as stewards of the earth. So when that stewardship responsibility is ruptured, we've also broken our connection with the earth. That is deeply spiritual. It's not just economic, it's not just physical, it's also deeply spiritual. And so the person that can be said to enjoy wellness beyond just well-being has to be a person who is spiritually conscious, who is culturally conscious, and who understands the right of nature to be herself.
Oh, thank you. It's so heartwarming and heart-opening. to just receive these words. It feels like a real gift. Yeah, which reminds me or brings me to my next question, which is because you're also a poet, which I think people listening so far will have noticed. But if you could speak a little bit also to the role of like poetry and art in this work of, you know, honoring relationship and even in activism.
Absolutely. Well, for a long time, we're going back in history, going back down to our cultural experiences, find that the arts are very central in protecting nature and the environment. In communities, people are held to account through songs, through poetry. And so if you are somebody who's given to environmental misbehavior, just one song will put you in check. I know in today's world, shamelessness has become a badge of honor. People don't really care what you say about what, you just can do anything and forget about the consequences. But it wasn't like that, and it cannot continue to be like that. And so the arts provide us very good space for connections because artistic productions are very universal. A poem about the river in my village will resonate with somebody else with river in Europe, in North America, Asia, Latin America, everywhere. Because we are all connected to nature and we all experience nature and environment in basically the same way, or we have desires to connect to the way we ought to connect with our memories as humans, memories that go back millions of years, and which is still ingrained in us. That is why just going out to sit in nature is so refreshing and so rejuvenating. Just sitting by the beach or sitting in the rivers, walking in water, just dipping your feet in water and sitting by the side of the river is so refreshing and so strength because it brings the connection. Poetry does the same. Poetry connects us to the environment. Poetry also awakens us to the sense of consciousness about what is going wrong and what we must do. So poems, the arts are very useful in triggering responses. They are very good in sending signals about what must be done, and also for building movements. And so poetry, music, drama, storytelling, these are increasingly becoming more stronger and stronger tools for activism, for connecting people. Because, if you're going to bring about change, the process must be enjoyable. And you can enjoy the process of bringing about change by having good music for the struggle, good poetry for the struggle, and good skits and drama, that push us along. This is centrality, the centrality of the struggle. Because again, when you pick a piece of poetry, it's like an unending declaration. Most poems can continue beyond where the poet stopped on the page. And so everybody can find a space in that poem and begin to expand it to suit their own context, their own reality, to own it, to be embedded in the poetry. This is the beauty of poems for songs and artistic productions for activism. And without artistic production, I think we're very much diminished and we can't have pleasure in the struggle. We'll burn out so easily. This is why making a documentary such as Water is Love is so critical, because it helps you to see many things at the same time that you could not see all at one time. It brings up struggles from different parts of the world, and you see that this change is possible. It's possible to do it. People have done it, and so we can all do it. It's through the arts that we can bring this kind of reality to everybody's attention.
Yeah, thank you. It's such a, I think also a really important reminder for so many activists. We might as well enjoy the struggle and how important art is in this context. And thanks also for mentioning the Water is Love documentary. I'm curious also if you wanted to share more reflections you had on the film and how it maybe relates to your work or where we are at as environmental justice movements.
Yes, just looking through the movie brings a lot of ideas about what is possible. It also brings understanding of how other people perceive nature and water. So we see the commonalities, we see the reflection that we are not just in one corner thinking of water as different from what others are thinking about elsewhere. So this kind of solidarity in understanding is critical for reinforcing our resolve to continue with the struggle for safe, clean, accessible water that is not only for human use, but for the enjoyment of all beings. So, yes, and I think I also enjoy particularly the craft itself, the presentation, and the perspective presented, the pictures presented, and the energy with which different constituencies, different peoples are pursuing. They believe, because if you're going to succeed in respecting water as love, as life, you have to really be convinced about it. You have to be convicted of your conviction. You have to believe that this, what you believe is right, and that there are no alternatives than to pursue the reality and realization of the ideals for which we stand. These are some of the things that I see the multiple examples of what is going on is so refreshing and so interesting. And I want to thank the team for that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it really means a lot to hear that from such a veteran environmental activist like you. So thank you very much. Maybe just as a last question, because I mean, for years now we've had, I mean, in the last years it's ebbed down a little bit, but we've had like millions, literally millions of young people horrified by the climate crisis, taking to the street. In recent years, there is a whole generation kind of alarmed by environmental disaster in the future. And I wonder, like, if you had like a minute that you could speak to all these people, like, what would be your message?
Well, let me look into the camera and speak to the world. Yeah, I would like to say that we must all be clear about the reality of where we are, the objective reality of our various locations. We should ask ourselves, is our environment safe? Are we doing the best that we can do to maintain, to keep the balance, to ensure that we don't have runaway climate catastrophe? Now, we also ask ourselves, are we doing anything to help bring about change? And if the answer to that is yes, I want to encourage everyone. If you have a yes, doing is contributing to positive change, please go ahead. No matter the inconveniences, no matter the persecution, don't give up. Just stay on course. And if everybody says you are wrong, but you believe you are right, keep staying on the right path. It doesn't matter how many people say no to what you're saying. If what you're saying is right, 1 million no's will not turn the right upside down. Right is right, and we have to fight for what is right, and by so doing, stand for our rights.
Words of a true elder. Thank you so much, Nnimmo Bassey, for joining us today. And if you haven't watched Water is Love, Ripples of Regeneration, please go to our website, waterislovefilm.org, where the film is freely available, and help us pass on the message to anyone who might be interested. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.